All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And Shalom to the Akim out there preaching his word in truth and sincerity. This is your brother Shamar coming back with another lesson. And in this lesson, I wanted to go into, resisting pretty much the lust of the flesh, because the more that you give into it, the more that it pulls you away from the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right. And you being on your own most of the time, right? You may think that you're not doing nothing wrong. All right. No one's there to look over your shoulder, so to speak. So you moving in a questionable manner, I should say, because it ain't like it's necessarily going off yet. Like the scriptures say, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. All right. And you have a lot of jakes out there that really you can't handle having yourself under subjection, basically putting yourself under discipline. All right. If you are left to yourself, no one checking you, telling you to stop doing this and that, you would just go all in on whatever it is that you're doing to the point to where it is sinful. All right. It is destroying you. All right. And it is not doing anything good for you spiritually. Because first and foremost, we're supposed to be focused on things that builds up the inward man, not the outward man, that not pleasing the outward man. All right. Because everything pertaining to the flesh, it's really not beneficial for us. We're supposed to be focused on the spiritual things. And that's a daily battle that we have in itself regarding fighting against the flesh. Nonetheless, the more that you allow the flesh to win, then you're going to become weaker and weaker in the spirit, to the point to where now you're not even fighting back. You're just pretty much like a zombie, just following the lust wherever it take you, whatever it may be, because it could be many different things pertaining to lust of the flesh, right? But nonetheless, it has all the same end goal, which is sin, which is leading to death. All right. It's going to destroy you ultimately. Now, the first scripture I want to get is in James 1:13, and it says, and remember when you are, I'm reading it in the NLT as well, by the way, James 1:13, and remember when you are being tempted, do not say the Most High is tempting me, for the Most High is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. So these temptations, they're going to come from things that you already desire to have, It ain't like it's just some random thing like, all right, like some pork or something. Nobody got a fucking desire to eat that, right? Obviously. But these temptations are things that you have a desire for. It could be, desire for women, or desire for, drink, getting on, money, giving too much time into folly, whatever the case may be, right? But these temptations come from your own desires, man. All right, which entice you and drags you away. What is it dragging you away from? It's dragging you away from the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And like I said, you giving into this desire, you in your mind believing that there's nothing unlawful about it, because it's if you want to be a technical, it ain't going off according to the law. Nonetheless, it's not expedient for you, right? Like I said earlier, yet it's dragging you away from the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and you giving yourself over to the whatever it may be pertaining to those desires. All right, you will find yourself in a dark space, because you're giving yourself over to it so much to the point to where you're not even resisting anymore. And it comes secondhand. It comes naturally now for you to just give into that lust, that desire, that temptation. You're not even conscious of what's happening at that point. You're just willingly giving in and seeing nothing wrong with it anymore, because you didn't gave up the will to fight ultimately. because you're not even aware of what the hell is going on now. You done went so far off the deep end, so to speak. That's how far it done dragged you away from the spirit to where you're not even realizing I got snapped the hell out of it, man. I got to get back on point. And it's a real slippery slope. All right, those temptations and those desires of the flesh, man, that entices us day in and day out. That's why it's a constant battle. And this battle isn't going to be over with until we are in those new bodies after we receive salvation and the kingdom of heaven is being established, man. Yet until then, this is a daily battle that is going to happen. And if you're not aware or consciously putting up a fight in this battle day by day, who do you think is going to win the fight? All right, if you finna fight against a person and he ain't even putting his hands up, dude gonna get knocked out. And that's what's happening with you spiritually, because this fight is happening regardless if you being conscious of it or not. Regarding the flesh fighting against the spirit and the spirit against the flesh. That's a conscious battle we have to make as far as fighting back spiritually, because the flesh is going to naturally want to do whatever it's going to do regarding those desires and temptations that entice us to drag us away from being in the spirit, to being closer to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in the spirit, man. All right. Now 15, it says, these desires give birth to sinful actions. And when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. Now, these desires, it's going to make you go, like it says, it give birth to sinful actions. Now, these things it is sinful now, because now you're destroying yourself. Now you're not in the spirit. You're just giving in so much to the flesh to the point to where you literally doing bad to yourself, man. The scriptures say to do good to thyself. But you giving over so much to these desires is literally destroying you. All right. And like I mentioned earlier, by you giving in so much to it to the point where you're not even conscious of the battle nor resisting anymore. Now you're at a point to where you don't even realize what the hell is going on. You just let the demons overtake you. Those spirits overtake you, man. Regarding the lust to the flesh. Because you didn't gave into it so much to where now it just comes naturally for you to want to go do those things and go about your way, so to speak. Because you don't have anybody, over your shoulder, like I mentioned earlier. Because if another brother is seeing you moving in a questionable manner, it's not beneficial for your spirit, they're going to say something. You feel me? But then if you don't take heed to that and you just keep on moving in that questionable manner, which is off, what's going to happen? It gives birth to those sinful actions. And then when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death, because ultimately that's what's going to be the end goal of it. You going off so much on the deep end to the point to where you are destroyed. Hey, because the Lord is merciful and he forgives. Nonetheless, if you're not even putting up a fucking fight or conscious of what you're doing, what do you think going to happen when you just keep on going further and further off the deep end, being dragged away by the lust and those desires, all right, that give birth to those sinful actions, and when they allow it to grow, what leads to death? Hey, the Lord going to judge you, man, ultimately. And then to, outside people on the outside that see it, it may seem like it came out of nowhere, like, damn, why did this happen to that brother, this and that? Hey, the whole time behind the scenes, Jake was doing all type of crazy shit. But then you then act surprised when judgment happens. That's why the scriptures say you got to examine yourself, man, whether you be in the faith, all right? Know ye not yourselves. And if you giving in to those desires to the point to where you're not even fighting back anymore, you don't even know yourself. You done lost yourself, because that is the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You don't read about anyone in the scriptures that was a man of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai being given over to those desires and those lusts, man. All right. They were all about what? The spirit. All right. The spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Honing in on that. Building upon that. All right. Building up the next brother. Edifying the body. Doing the will and the works of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. But you being given into those temptations and those desires, what does it do? It drags you away from all that, man. And ultimately ends up destroying you. All right. Now this is a quick one in James as well. 4:7. It says, "Submit yourselves therefore to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." And that's right, man. You gotta submit yourself, man. All right. Hey, like I mentioned earlier, bring your body under subjection, under the obedience of Yahweh Shai, man. All right, because the body, the flesh, it doesn't want to do that. It doesn't want to do the right thing. It wants to do the wrong thing. And you got to resist. You got to fight, like I said, because this is a constant battle. You got to resist the devil, man. Resist those desires, those temptations, because that's all Satan, ultimately. That's all these wicked spirits, man. All right. It says resist the devil and he will flee from you. So you got to resist Satan, man. Because by you doing that, then those desires going to go away. That temptation is going to go away. Why? Because now you've conquered your flesh. You've overcame that desire. You overcame that temptation because you didn't just keep giving yourself into it. How can you overcome something when you keep allowing it to overtake you, you know? And when you allow it to overtake you so much to the point to where now you can't even fight back, that's when you're cooked. You know, it's very hard to bounce back at that point. When you're not even resisting, you're just giving in 100%, you know? And that, like I said, that's a real slippery slope when you're giving in to those temptations and those desires to the point to where you're not even resisting anymore. All right? You're not even conscious of the fact that you're not resisting or trying to even attempting to resist it. You're just giving in wholly to it, man. And that's crazy in itself. And like I said, man, at that point, hey, like the scripture said, you know, it leads to that end of the road where what? Death is at, ultimately, man. All right. Now this is Galatians 5:16. "This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh." And that's right, man. You got to walk in the spirit, man, not walk in the lust of the flesh, man. You got to resist the flesh and walk in the spirit, man. All right. Because if you resist the flesh, then you're going to be more in the spirit, man. And overcoming that battle so many times, now it's going to be easier. Or you didn't give into that temptation, that desire. You keep on resisting against it to the point to where now it's easy, you know? All right. Like, for example, it's just a random example, right? You might have been smoking or whatever before you came into the truth, but then when you came into the truth, you're like, all right, I'm not going to do that no more. Or as you was learning about it, and then you had to resist that desire, that habit that you had, and then over time, after you stop and resisting and not doing it, god damn, over that time of you resisting and not doing it, then you it became easier to not do it. All right. Verse 17, it says, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. And this is always a constant battle, like I was going into. Your spirit is always fighting against the flesh, and your flesh is always fighting against the spirit. All right, even Yahweh Shai mentioned it. All right, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So we have to make that much more of an effort to fight against the flesh, man. All right. Because that you don't want to allow the flesh to overcome your spirit, man. Because once that happens, man, like I said, you're damn near done with at that point. It's very hard to bounce back after that when you didn't gave yourself up to those desires so much to the point to where you're not even resisting them, just day in and day out, just all full-fledged into the flesh, man. Those desires, those lusts, those temptations, not even resisting them anymore, not even resisting those spirits. Those spirits overtake you. Now you don't even know, you're not even conscious of what you're doing, you're just doing it, you know. Verse 18, but if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, here heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And if you really want to inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, be part of that first resurrection, that salvation, you can't be giving yourself over to these desires to the point to where they overcome in your spirit, man. All those different things it was mentioning. That's all the lusts of the desires of the flesh, man. All right. You have to resist these things, like I brought out in James 4:7. Resist the devil and he shall flee from you. Resist those temptations. All right. You have to put up the fight against it. A conscious battle day in and day out. All right. It says, verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And that's the spirit we have to be in, man. Temperance, that balance. All right. And they that are Yahushai's have crucified the flesh. They that are Hamashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. All right. And you're supposed to have done that, man. Crucified the flesh with the affections and the lust thereof, man. Not be totally wholly given into the flesh and the lust and affections thereof. You gotta crucify that, man. Put that to death. Kill it. Resist it. Fight against it. All right. Because if you don't, those things are gonna overtake you and lead into sinful actions, which leads to death. All right. Verse 25, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. So you got to live in the Spirit, man. All right. Day in and day out, how you carry yourself, your conduct. All right. Not making that daily conscious battle, all right, of resisting the flesh. Because the flesh always wants to do whatever it wants to do pertaining to those different desires that are not good for you. And by you giving yourself over to those desires, what does it do? Like I mentioned, like I read over in James, the first chapter. All right, it drags you away. It drags you away from what? The spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. So you have to make this conscious effort, conscious fight, battle. All right, to resist those spirits, to resist the lust of the flesh, and to making a conscious effort to walk in the Spirit. So that we don't fulfill the lust of the flesh, man. Because by you just giving yourself over to it day in and day out, not even fighting back, resisting it, you're just dragging yourself further. You're being pulled away further and further from the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to the point to where you're just in a dark abyss. All right, surrounded by death now. Because that's the only thing that is going to make manifest is you being destroyed ultimately, and none of us should want that. All right. Hey, so with that, I'm going to wrap up and give our praises and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders and bishops in Great Millstone. And Shalom to the Akim out there. Preach his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom.